Friends, family and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Delboy blog, and as always I'm going to date stamp this. It's year 5, blog 11, or in legacy numbers blog number 219, and it's dated the 3rd of the 5th 2026. Yeah, we're into a new month. It means it's the beginning of a bank holiday weekend for us in the United Kingdom, and yeah, it's been. I usually tell you that whether things are difficult this week. It's been I would say, not disastrous. It's been a challenging week this week, and I'll explain more a little later. You might have heard my phone go off. I've got to keep it live based on what I'm going to tell you in a bit. But I'll look out the window first, and it's a sunny day. Although it rained last night, good, because it's been a very clear week this week, and the garden could definitely need a bit of water. So I'll get the news out the way first, because I've never really liked the news. It's all bad. There's very little news to make you smile, I think, is the best way to explain it. So, in the news this week, the state visit concluded this week. King Charles attended many functions and meetings in the USA aimed at bolstering the UK special relationship with America. Trade was bolstered with removal of whiskey tariffs. Yeah. I said last week, maybe it's a tit for tat. You invited American president over to us, so he reciprocated and said, hey, why don't you come over here? You know, it's costly. That's all I can say about it. Yes, maybe it bolstered the relationship. I think it's the wrong person to aim at with Trump to bolster anything. Whiskey tariffs, they don't help me. It might help Scotland more. I don't know. But hey, maybe that's a good news story. To some, to others, it's who gives a crap. But you know, I'm not a royalist. I have royals that I don't mind, and royals that, or previous royals, should I say, that are an embarrassment. But I've always in history loved the education to me in regards to kings and queens, you know, usually the 16th century. But, you know, even the Victorian age is great for me to educate myself on. That's all I can say about that, really. They were needed then. That's all I can say. Or history has proved that, I think. Now, I don't know. But continuing this, King Charles, on his return to the UK, stopped off with a trip to Bermuda, where he launched a UK space agency project. Well, you know, me and space. That's a good thing. So, yeah, maybe there is some good news in here. Sad news is the security threat, should I say, in the UK was raised to severe. Yeah, we've got several layers of threat levels. Severe now, following a stabbing in Golden Green. It's expected, I think. I've been talking in the past news about explosions outside synagogues and all sorts of stuff. It was only a matter of time before threat levels raised. Other news, a teenage boy was charged over a bomb hoax at a Peter Kay show in Birmingham this week. I mean, this is where society to me is just so poor. A teenage boy bomb hoax, an arena event. I mean, have we not learnt anything on this? So, yeah. PM Keir Starmer is warned of an electoral bloodbath after the upcoming local elections. Yes, this week it's local election voting time. I suppose in America, maybe we'd call those midterms. But we have a local electoral coming up, and with Labour's rankings at the moment, probably due to the war and all sorts of other things with Mendelssohn and all of that, yeah, he's going to get a whipping. But, again, it's midterm stuff, so, maybe that'll turn around. Who knows? The Iran war continues to attack fuel prices, and with holiday trips now in focus. So, yeah, with all of the fuel prices, the Straits all under threat, the Iran war, holidays. We're approaching the holiday season, so of course the news is full of how holidays are affected. Well, of course they're affected, and it'll be all on our purses. So there you go. And the last story was a new Banksy statue. I don't know if you know who Banksy is, but he's this mysterious artist who turns up now and again. A Banksy statue has appeared in central London depicting a man blinded by a flag. Take that symbol as you will on that, and that's the news. So there's not much changed in regards to me. Well, there is, I suppose, but not in regards to work. My manager, who looks after me from a point of view of holidays, sick and so forth, is off this week, so I couldn't call her. And as you know, late the week before, I pulled my back. I was hoping this week that it would get a lot better, but you'll see me moving a lot during this blog, I'm sure. It is slightly better, but nowhere near. I called the doctor's surgery on Monday to try and get an appointment, because I don't need an extension to my sick note until Tuesday. And lo and behold, I can't see anybody until not next week, but the week after. Go figure. I called up and told them it was an emergency. They said that there was no earlier appointment. Just goes to show you the health industry is really poor at the moment. Not an awful lot I can do about this. I'm continuing to take painkillers. It's very difficult when you consider the challenges that are going on with looking after my mum this week, and I'll explain that. So, as we go into my mother, as you know, she went into hospital with some type of infection. We were given 2 types of antibiotics, one for urinary tract and one which was more spectral, although targeted mainly on chest. And it was coming up to my sister's operation. So the beginning of the week was all prep for that. My sister was very anxious. I comforted her as best as possible, as best as you can, with knowing that it will make no difference whatsoever to a person. It wouldn't with me if my sister was talking to me and I was going in for an operation. Doesn't matter what people say, you're anxious. And she's been waiting 2 years for this operation. And all I could do is to show that I was making mum as comfortable as possible, getting everything in place. My sister did the same. And on Wednesday would be the day that I would be by myself, totally looking after my mum. Not a problem for me. That's what I said to her. And it hasn't been for the most part. So I'll explain that in a little while. Monday was also a day that was filled with challenges, tribulations, because when we left the hospital, they told us that there was an after appointment on her leg that was supposed to be on Monday, but they never gave us any times for this, other than it was on Monday and it was booked. On Monday was also the time where they were picking up that equipment that was useless to us. That little perch chair that I told you about, plus a spare commode that they wouldn't take away because it wasn't on the list, all of this sort of rubbish. So we were my sister and I were nowhere near knowing what was going on with the hospital appointment because they'd never given us an appointment time. You have to understand how this all works. They wouldn't see her while she was in hospital. They wanted her to be discharged first. To arrange for her to go and visit, she would need an ambulance there and back. And therefore, when you book an ambulance, it's always in 4-hour blocks. So you don't know whether it'd be early to pick up or late. And when it's coming back, you don't know whether it'd be right away or 4 hours time. So it's a horrible situation, especially for a person of age, which my mum is. I mean, she's 85. So, yeah. The Millbrook one is slightly easier. It is an all day, 8 o'clock till 5, any time. And with my sister still not going to hospital just yet for her appointment, she's there from 8:30 till 4 o'clock. So, well, no, actually, sorry, that's wrong. 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock, because I'm off work. So she gets a little bit of a help, I hope, should I say, for that. So, of course, the picking up of the equipment happened. It happened about 11:30. They took away the equipment. They gave us some extra sheets, still stuff out of stock, i.e. the wash basin, which immediately led to me ringing up the occupational health team again to tell them they hadn't phoned me in regards to the equipment that was useless to us and what we were needing to get replaced. So you can imagine they're taking away a commode and they're taking away a chair. That means we need a different chair. And I happen to mention that the table has no casters, and so we need that table, and that I wouldn't be getting that picked up until we had a replacement. I did manage to get through. I did manage to chat about that. I mentioned also that we are still, after 5 or 6 weeks, waiting for the incontinence. I keep calling them incompetence, but they are the incontinence team, about the pads that we have to keep buying, because they haven't come up with a new a replacement order. So pads are becoming difficult. My sister was very good and ordered some more, got some more from town, pads that were more absorbent, but they're still not the pads that we need, that that are split and you sort of like assemble by tabs. In other words, you fold over these tabs and you fold it over. It's like a nappy that a child would have, and the Velcro sticks. They're more absorbent. They're easy to put on, so you don't have to roll the patient left and right to pull them up, because pull-ups are only great if you're standing up. Bloody awful to put on if you're rolling left to right on a bed, and my mum is mostly in bed. And I mentioned we're still waiting for the call. They said that they would chase that up. So, filled with confidence again, no, but feeling better about it, yes. That was the end of Monday, and on Tuesday it was the eve of my sister going in for her operation. So it really was have we got everything in place? Have we got enough food? Have we got enough equipment? I went into Sainsbury's and got a box of wipes, confirmed we had enough incontinence pads for the beds, enough washing up tabs to last us a week till she comes back. She ordered some food, some cottage pies, fish pies, that sort of thing. I bought some mince, got the bread and the milk and everything. So we were in a good place at the end of Tuesday, and I wished my sister well. And Wednesday was the first time I was by myself. Now, you have to remember through all of this that the care team are fantastic, but they can't give me any times on when they're going to be turning up. It could be any time between 7 and 9, any time between 11 and 1, any time between 4 and 6, and any time 7 till 9. So this is why the blog is going to be a bit bitty, because I'm going to have to pause and check, and then I have to prep everything now. So of course there's the breakfast prep, the dinner prep, the evening prep, tablets all the way through this, antibiotics that have to be given 3 times a day for the liquid, 4 times a day for the tablet, and then all the other normal tablets, the Orobolim, all the other tablets, and cocodamol that you give, morning and evening. So it's a lot of washing up, drying up, putting away, getting tablets ready, prepping breakfast, assistive eating, so I have to help my mum eat, lots of copious amounts of tea, Fortisip, which is a formulatic milkshake full of vitamins, etc., etc. You can imagine answering the door, getting the carers in, washing up all of the flannels and towels, pajamas. I'm running around like a headless chicken, and I'll do it without blinking. It's my mum, but you can imagine it's tiring. Next to nothing time for me. Not that there was much before. Now it's exhaustion, and it's a matter of keep going. Care 24/7 can't be really done by one person over a long period of time, and thank God this is only a week. But we are now in day 5, and it's not long now before my sister returns. I informed her that I would text her every day. Haven't done a text today yet because it's very early still really to text my sister with anything, because we haven't even got to dinner time yet. And she would text me in regards to how her operation went. Now, she has sent me one text to tell me. I haven't heard much else. I've been texting her every day, sometimes at different parts of the day, and maybe a little bit later than my sister would probably care to admit, but I've done the very best I can. And it's very difficult as well to keep the rest of the family informed. I know that I haven't informed my auntie this week, but I have been informing my sister and my family in Southam as best as possible. But even then, it's only the odd text. I can't stop all the time and remember all these things. It's more important the care for my mother. But I've done what I can, and I'm sure my sister's filled in the rest. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, really, and Saturday has all been that, with some prep for my blog on Saturday where I could, having to fill in the blanks Sunday morning today, which I always do anyway because of the news. So it's just been hectic is the best way to look at it. There have been very little downsides this week. There was one on Saturday. I had a surprise come from my niece turning up. That didn't go particularly well because of her husband, or in fact her boyfriend maybe. First time meeting him, but he clearly doesn't like me. Less said about that, the better. Actually, my niece was very good. She said he's just very protective, doesn't know you. I'm sure I can have a word with him. And I said, well, do so, because I don't like hostility. And that's the end of that. Nothing to say. It was a nice visit for them. I left them to themselves. Just little niggly things that you just don't need in your life. And I totally understand their side of things, and I hope they understand mine. It's just one of those things that will get better through more talking, and that's the best way to leave that. So didn't come away with a bad taste, and I hope they didn't either. And that's the end of that. And that's all to say, really, I think, about this week. I've got my mother now on a different breakfast. She still gets toast with marmalade, but because of the assistive eating and the trouble swallowing, I've got her on Weetabix with warm milk and sugar. She seems to enjoy that, and that obviously is so soft it just goes down. And I sort of alternate each day between toast and that. And the dinners that my sister left behind have been wonderful because they've been pies, you know, like fish pie and cottage pies. So they've got a mashed potato top with a nice soft mince. So that's great. We bought her a different range of soup. So instead of just tomato, she's got cream of chicken, mushroom and beef. Although I mixed up with the beef. I wanted cream of beef, but I bought beef broth. So it's got bits in it. So that's one tin that won't be being used. Even the mushroom has got bits in. So that can be a bit tricky because she drinks that and she drinks it out of what they call a sippy cup. If you remember what a sippy cup is as your child, it's a cup with a top with a sort of like a strawy end. And of course the bits will get trapped there. So it can be a bit of a problem. Yeah, I think that's pretty much my week. What else? I don't think there's anything else really. It's going to be, you know, like I say, a weird bank holiday weekend because I'll be, you know, still on caring duties. And to be quite honest, all the bank holidays since last March have been a problem. And that means that we've gone through one whole year of bank holidays since this whole thing happened for my mother with the vascular dementia. So we've got through a year and I think we've done very well. The caring package is semi-working. We've got them, I think, for another at least a week and a half, I think. And then that package will end. And it will just be me and my sister. And so this is going to be a time for treble prep to make sure we understand how to get her out of bed, get her back in, changing, wipes, duties on shopping will all have to be discussed. So yeah, money will always be an issue. It's never going to go away. We both, my sister and I, don't care. It's all about care, and it's all care for my mother. So yeah, nothing else to really report. So I hope that sort of like fills you in. I need to obviously inform work what's going on. That'll be done. And I need to get myself in order. Not only am I tired, but my back is a concern. It's slightly better. With my mother as she is, and I can't leave her, I can't do any walking. I have to therefore watch what I'm eating. Don't want to put the weight back on that I lost. And I probably need to spice up some food to cook because I used to give her the very basic meals in the evening, and with the fish pie and the cottage pie gone, I've now got to start thinking about cooking more fresher meals. And I don't do an awful lot of cooking because I live off things like beans on toast or a sandwich or whatever, which is bad, I know. But I'm going to have to cook a proper stuff, you know, mash up some veg and that sort of stuff. And I need to think about me a little bit on what I eat a little bit as well. So, yeah. So that's the end of the news. Mostly also that's happened this week. And as you can see, the challenge is not anything other than looking after my mum. No other challenges, no other discrepancies, no real bad taste in my mouth from anything that went on. So we'll move on, shall we, to the shout-outs. This might be a quick blog. Like I say, I am going to have to keep checking on my mum. So I am going to quickly just say my spiel about the shout-outs. You know, after we get the news out the way and what's going on in my life, I like the shout-outs and the comment section. Everybody who watches this, I'm very pleased, happy, thank you very much for the support, etc. And all those that leave a comment, a special thank you, because it meant that you took time out of your day to think about me. You thought, oh, I think I'll go and send a little comment to Del Boy. He could really probably appreciate this with all the bad news that's going on in his life. So, but all the people that watch, thank you so much. I'm not a number watcher really anymore. So I see things going up and in a right direction, and it fills me with glee of a sort. So that's great. So here we go with the shout outs. They are in no particular order: Carl Todd, Ian Hill, The Ramblings, LFC Gamer and Vlogs, Martroid, Jambon, Wee Bobart, Colin Jones, aka Ponder. Oh, and just to add another shout out to my friend Denny, we had a 2-hour chat on Monday. It was broken up with me looking after my mum. You know, I had to put him on pause just to give my mum water, and during the times when I was prepping her tea and all, you know, her evening dinner, should I say. But we had a chat about all the stuff that's going on in his life, and boy, is a lot going on in his life. But I'll leave it for him to tell you what those things are. But I thought mine was hectic. His is pretty much just there as well, with hospitals and sickness and so forth. So it was really nice to get caught up with him. I didn't go into me too much. I explained to him that when he has time, he can just look at any blog I've got. So I won't spoil anything by interrupting his flow of venting with annoyances going on in his life based on care and NHS, etc. So we didn't really cover our own channels on YouTube, personal life, what's going on, what we're doing, what we're not doing, things that excite us. We talked very little on that. Maybe that'll be a conversation to have when all the things improved with him. So I think I've read those out, talked about Denny. So I'm just going to take a little pause to check on my mum, and then I'll come back and read out some of the comments. So it'll be seconds to you. Thank you. So although that was seconds for you, it was a couple of minutes. We're in the period of time now where they could turn up in the next 2 hours, and I'm not going to hear a door knock or a doorbell this far into the house. So I'm going to have to now keep going away. So I'll do this in a very bitty nature, but I'll try not to keep saying I'm putting it on pause. I'll just do that every now and again, depending on the length of the comments, because I'm going to do the comments now. And the first one is from my friend Ian Hill, The Ramblings. As you know, he's got his own YouTube channel. He's a very big supporter of me. He's a great friend. And I do a live with him on Wednesday. We hope that you'll come along and to speak to us, because we talk about not just films and TV. We talk about music, anything that's going on. Food. We've talked about food in the past. It's just everything, to be quite honest. And it's just a great relief to me on a Wednesday to do that. It breaks up my week, and it fills me with support with the people that come in. So I'll just read out his comment and hope that you will read the description and go to his channel and have a look. He's put, "Hi Del Boy, hope you and your mum are doing okay and getting through the week without too many problems. It's the best you can hope for, and you can have weeks which run smoothly. All that equipment delivery brought back memories when I looked after my wife. The majority of the time they were excellent in delivering the equipment. I was grateful we didn't have to pay, and so am I. On the other hand, Paying for nursing care was impossible. It was expensive. It was another factor in me giving up work and becoming her full-time carer. I went to the Citizens Advice Bureau, who got me the contacts I needed for helping us. And yeah, thank God really for my sister here that allows me to work. But of course, my own health has deteriorated. So, it's not been good. I've been okay with my health, he continues. My left hand is back in action and now healed. Still feeling cold sometimes. The nurse did comment this week how cold the room was. She said a lot of these houses built in 1905 were like this. And yes, my house is also around that period, so single brick stuff. We had a good live. I'm sorry that troll made me cross, but I wasn't having it anymore. They crossed over the line. I never care about what these idiots think about me. I just normally ignore them. However, if they try and mess around with my friends and family, then that's it. They are out and blocked. Yeah, there was an element of this on Wednesday. It didn't deter too much. Some people thought that the remark was a joke, but they don't know of the previous remarks that have been said out of sight. I said to Ian afterwards, probably release that person. I think it probably was a joke, even if it was a sly mark at me, but what a nice guy Ian is. He instantly saw something, took action. That was the best thing to do. It could have gone in any direction at that point. It was... I'll say this. It was a joke of bad colour, of bad... what's the word? But take it like this. It could have been looked at as a sly mark at me, a dig at me. The person has done a dig at me before, and I totally get it. But from my point of view, some things can be just a joke, and you can take it like that, and it's something to discuss later on. But I've got far more worries on my hands in regards to care for me to be worried about it, and we'll have a chat, and I'm pretty sure that person's got no problems with being around. Like I say, this is the problem when so much bad is happening in your life on YouTube, that you don't know whether you go too far with something. But I will say this, at the time it was well needed. Yeah, I'll say that. But it didn't deter a very happy stream, and we had some great times. I had two highlights in films I watched this week. The first one was Countess Dracula from 1971, a Hammer production. I thought Ingrid Pitt was excellent, and the idea of using blood of virgin women to be youthful and beautiful was very clever. It moved the story on to an inevitable conclusion. Yep, I remember that film very well. I've watched it many times over the years. Yep, so have I. The second film was Cool Hand Luke, which I bought a steelbook of a year back, and I hadn't watched it in years. I watched it with over the years with family. It's a 1967 film, Cool Hand Luke, starring Paul Newman, and an Oscar-winning performance from George Kennedy. I enjoy prison dramas. This was up there with the best. So my question this week is, what are your favourite prison dramas? Oh my God. I prefer courtroom dramas to prison dramas, but I really have enjoyed prison dramas over the years. Earliest one that I remember is probably The Birdman of Alcatraz with Burt Lancaster. Love that film. Thought that was brilliant. Watched that many times over the years. I don't know whether it's because it's a hard inmate looking after animals, whether the animal aspect reminds me of my dad, he never did a bad thing in his life. He wasn't in prison, but he loved animals. So seeing the light side of an inmate, because you must remember that he was in Alcatraz for a reason, and it's a true story, and he was a hardened criminal. For reform in prisons to be changed based on this man who befriended a bird and then started to make things in workshop like little cages, and other inmates also having birds around, and working out how prisons can keep birds healthy, because the birds were dying, cooped up all the time, disease. Back then, healthy conditions were not great in prisons. So it's a very interesting film from many levels. And thinking of Alcatraz, there's Escape from Alcatraz, which is a Clint Eastwood film, which is a great prison breakout, along with The Great Escape, but that's more a war prison rather than a prison drama. It's a different type of prison, so I won't include that one. But definitely you can include The Shawshank Redemption. I think everybody knows The Shawshank Redemption now. Very, very powerful drama. One that talks about the mental system, on how being in prison can affect your mental health, and the things that go on in prison. So that's a great one. And then there's Midnight Express, which is, I think, a fantastic film. I think it's the 80s for that one. I remember that one because A, I watched it, B, I think it was on a couple of my friends' best 80s films in their lists. I think it was. But I remember it anyway. It would be in my 80s list. So, I mean, we don't talk about TV, but Porridge was my comedy of choice in prisons, which isn't a drama of a sort, but I don't think you can take away the fact that Porridge was a landmark TV series. Even prisoners have commented on how it helped them, and how life in prison really did mirror in many aspects of that comedy show. Ronnie Barker, well, he's just a comedy hero of mine. Loved all his character portrayals. Norman Stanley Fletcher was just one of those great characters. It's often named in UK top comedy TV series. And what are we now? 40, 50 years down the line, and still it's watched today. So, yeah, we'll end with Porridge, even though it's TV and shouldn't really be in it. And just if in case I missed it, Midnight Express was the one before that, the film that I watch as a prison drama. All the best, and my best wishes to you and your mum. Have a reet grand time. To you, sir, thank you very much for all your support. Don't worry about everything. Thank you very much for looking out for me. It is a concern for me how that could have been a horrible remark. It was nice that you looked out for me. It couldn't be looked at on any other way, knowing previously what's been said. It didn't mar us one bit, and I hope it didn't mar anybody else. So less said about anything like that, and I'm pretty sure that that person will be back, and we'll discuss that. So we'll move on now to the next one, LFC Gamer and Vlogs, who is a great supporter of me, very, very busy. Hasn't been feeling it with YouTube just recently, but is started to feel more pro about doing some more YouTube stuff. So that's always good news to me, because when they become something that is great for me to watch, I miss it when they're not doing stuff. So that's great. And let's see what LFC Gamer and Vlogs has said. He's put, "Hi Del, cheers for another excellent blog. And as always, I'm sending my regards to you and your mum. Good luck to both of you. Thank you so much." and it's got here, recently I've been in shoot 'em up phase, mostly focusing on ones that were released for the Super Nintendo, while most play better in 60Hz NTSC like UN Squadron, Darius Twin, Gradius Free and Super R-Type among others. I found the Axlay game, or at least for me, felt more playable in 50Hz PAL due to the scrolling being that bit smoother. Same with Super Elast and Peridius. However, I'm most likely being pedantic, but who cares? Laugh out loud. Most folk would probably say the Mega Drive and Amiga for this kind of genre, and for the most part I will agree. But I'll tell you what, Konami knew how to make a bloody good shooter for the Super Nintendo. Yeah, we have to say this, that the Super Nintendo had its pros and cons, and shoot 'em ups were not totally pro. Its chipset had slowed down, but games like Super R-Type have been patched over the years. Through emulation, we've managed to see some of these problems go away. So thank God for that. You know, that's brilliant. We can enjoy these games a lot more. I always considered the Super Nintendo had the edge in regards to graphic and sound over the Mega Drive, and I'm probably going to get a lot of talk about that. But it did have a higher colour palette. I did think in certain genres like platforming, it definitely stood out. The sound had so many things going for it. It had a chip that allowed for echo and reverb and samples. It had a bit more memory for that. Its own sound chip was different to the one that was standardized in the Mega Drive. I don't think anybody can actually turn around and say that the Mega Drive had a bad sound chip. But if you were to put two games side to side and play them back and look at the graphics and sound, you will find that there is an edge of better quality in the SNES versions. Just look at Super Mario World on the SNES, and when you go into the haunted castle or go into a underground cavern, that echo, those sounds that are there, absolutely incredible work. And like I say, the color palette, you know, all the different, you know, when you look at it yellows, there's a gradients to it all that just makes things look smoother and nicer, more colourful. It's almost like looking at the colour palette of an Atari 800 to the Commodore 64. Commodore 64 was no slouch with colour, but the Atari always had the edge. And you know, there's no qualms about that. So anyway, you've put, other than that, my week, even if it's not over during the time I've typed this, has been a mostly positive one. It's been a very warm and sunny few days in Merseyside, and hoping to get a haircut between work and general mundane tasks. I might even be able to squeeze out a long overdue vlog, but we shall see. Here is my question. Is it me, or are cooking shows on TV nowadays are so boring? It's always MasterChef, the Great British Menu, or some other predictable competition bollocks, instead of the likes of Rick Stein, James Martin, and in particular Ainsley Harriott, who you rarely see in 2026. Yeah, I think there was something in the news about Ainsley Harriott and why you don't see him. I don't watch cooking shows, I have to say. If I'm going through channels, you might see the odd Gordon Ramsay kitchen nightmare thing on, but I don't really watch the Sunday morning stuff where they're teaching you how to cook or poach kippers, or you know, or fish, or you know, goulash or anything like that. I remember though the days of coming in out of school, and after the news there'd be a Keith Floyd cooking program. He'd be cooking fish or something, mostly getting drunk on the wine he used to drink. That was a thing. Delia Smith was a thing. Delia Smith was a long-term chef cook type thing, teaching you how to cook with scraps of food that you were around, you know, never going to the point where you had to go and buy copious amounts of expensive ingredients. So Delia Smith was great. Jamie Oliver turned cooking around. Very big on, once he'd got a family together, on cooking for kids and so forth. So that was nice. But I never really watched cooking stuff. The Gordon Ramsay stuff was nice at the beginning with these kitchen nightmares, but they became samey. I don't watch them now. They're usually on late at night, so sometimes I'll catch the obvious odd one. I suppose for my mum, cooking for her would have been Fanny Craddock. And I don't remember Fanny Craddock too much. She was joked upon by Benny Hill in a few skits that he did in his comedy show. And I remember her wearing lots of heavy makeup and having her husband kicking about, that she used to boss about. And she seemed to be very bossy to the camera as well, because she talked into the camera and the camera crew were there and she would normally be bossy to them. But she had very heavy set makeup on. I think she was getting on in years, trying to look young, but didn't really work under the studio lights and camera system. So yeah, Fanny Craddock is one that's definitely etched in time. I don't think we'll ever forget her as a cook for TV. Whether Ainsley Harriott and that will be remembered in 50 years' time like Fanny Craddock would, don't know. We always laughed at the word Fanny. Fanny, what a name, Fanny Craddock. Different understandings of understanding of words with the word Fanny. It's different in America to Britain, so it always used to make me smile knowing what that word meant in Britain. So yeah, salute to you, my friend. Thank you so much, and we'll talk about you a little bit later because something did happen with your channel this week. So salute, my friend. Thank you very much for your meaningful comment, and we'll move on in a moment. And the next comment is from my friend Martroid, and he's put, "Hi Del, I'm coming to your vlog diary a little late this week as I was away over the Anzac weekend. I'm sorry to hear about your mum's decline." I hope I pronounced that right. I'm not quite sure. As well as your own ongoing health challenges. As always, you, your mum and your sister are in my thoughts, and I'm wishing you all the best, and I'll explain that to my sister. She'll be very nice to know that she's getting best wishes. I also wanted to mention that a few years ago I went to a theatre screening of Suspiria with Goblin performing the soundtrack live. Wow, what a thing that'd be. I tell you what, Ian would be over the moon if that happened. And he would definitely turn up for that, and I'll definitely go now. It was a pretty awesome, if somewhat psychedelic experience from what I remember. I must admit, psychedelic, it must be quite hard to do on stage. It was a theatre screening. So yeah, so Goblin were playing in the screening of the production. Oh, okay. He said it was a somewhat psychedelic experience from what I remember. Take care, my friend, and please know I'm thinking of you. Thank you so much. No, Martroid, he's always here commenting. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. Love it. Salute, my friend. Sorry you don't have a channel for me to shout out to you about, but thank you for all your support. And we move on to Wee Bob Art, and he's put, "Hi Del, still watching along. I'm about 1 hour 45 minutes in, but if I don't go to bed I'll be tired for work. I have Thursday off and it will be spent doing the garden, so I will no doubt be listening to you or Alan." So, what do you mean, me or Alan? It's me. Don't listen to me. Only kidding. Sometimes I go back and listen to Kev Down the Rabbit Hole talkie videos that he did a while back. Yeah, he's great to listen to. You can actually, I mean, he's a very visual person, but I can actually listen to him just verbally. He's very good at expressing verbally what's going on. Anyway, we'll leave a question in case I forget later this week. So the question is, sometimes when I dig out my old systems, I hit eject and suddenly find a disc, thinking it had been lost. Have you ever found any discs in old systems, movies or games? All the best to you, your mum and family. Wow, funny you should say that. That's I think, a commonality. I think it's just anybody that's bought consoles, new DVD or Blu-ray or 4K players, or dismantled a CD player because their DVD player also plays CDs, has obviously done this. And of course, during my years, when there were no problems, I upgraded my PC every 2 to 3 years, and I would move the PC on and put the new one in place. Sometimes I'd keep the old PC out and have it as a sort of like a store and network the two machines up, so that I could move files that I haven't got time to back up now and put them on the old machine if it's got space. So, but of course, most of our PCs these days don't even have a CD, DVD, Blu-ray writer in anymore. So unless your machine is out and networked up, they're taken to bits or moved upstairs or whatever. And yeah, I found, actually, I think a couple of years back now, an old Elton John CD. It was the Skyline Pigeon album. Sorry, not Skyline Pigeon, the Empty Sky album, which has got one of my favourite tracks, Skyline Pigeon, on it. And it was in my Wii, of all things. What must have happened with that was I must have jailbroke the Wii. I remember doing that. And I wanted to see whether the media player still played in it. Put the CD in and forgot to take it out. Now, the Wii is actually underneath the plasma TV in the old living room. We got 2 living rooms. My mum was in the second living room for a while, and that's where my plasma ended up, and it had the Freeview box, because it was an old plasma, one bought in 2005, cost $3,000, and it was connected to that Pioneer plasma, and I didn't use the Wii very often, for a big long time, when it was reaching the end of its life spell, really. In fact, probably when about around the time I bought a Wii U, because that was the console after the Wii U. So I hit the eject and that disc came out. So yeah, that's happened. With PCs, yes, I found a couple. I was going through some PCs that were upstairs, just connected them, and ejected, and in 2 of the PCs that I've still got assembled but not being used, I found my Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 2 real-time strategy PC disc in one of them, and even going back even older to an older XP machine, I found a Bullfrog game, Magic Carpet. So that was good. Now, I am missing a disc. It's my Captain America 60s cartoon. I don't think you can see anymore, but over in the corner, see if I can point to it. It would be just there, so you can't see it. There is a box set of 60s Marvel animated series, and Captain America is a 2-disc set. One of the discs is missing. £1 to a penny. That disc is in a CD drive. And I need to sort of like power up those machines and pull them out, because it's bound sure to be trapped in it. There's a word of warning to you, to people of my sort of age that probably have got several PCs kicking about, like the PC that's down there, that white one. If they've got CD drives in them, bet you any money you've forgotten to took a disc out, whether that's a writable disc, rewritable disc, or a game that you used to have to install from pound to a penny. You've got a disc in it, and when it comes to consoles, I should think it's likely you probably forgot to took a disc out. So do go and have a look. Worth your while, that. Salute, my friend. And we will move on to my friend Jambon. I think I've got time. So let's see what my friend Jambon's got to say. He's put, "Hi Adele, thank you for keeping us up to date with your vlogs." Well, I will say this again. I even name this a vlog, but it is a diary. There is a difference between a diary and a vlog. The diary is just like what you would write and put your thoughts of at the time into. I'm letting it be known that my diary is an open one. It's still got maybe things that I won't talk about at the moment. I'm still timid about talking about some of my health issues. Just you'll see what they are and you could probably guess. I mean, my friend Colin has said all the time he's guessed what I've got, and he's not far off. But those things can get worse, and sometimes you have to take the time to explain it, or sometimes you just keep it to yourself. So there we go. You put, "I was a bit worried the other week when I thought you'd disappeared, but it turns out YouTube just never sent me the notification." Yeah, there's been some times where you can tick the box that says inform subscribers and they don't get that alert. And that's generally due to YouTube's algorithm. And there's not an awful lot I can do about it, other than I think by now, after 200 odd diary entries on a Sunday, that you know that there's one out on a Sunday. And that'll always be the case, even when a situation like I'm in at the moment is happening with my mother. It's when it will appear on a Sunday. It might be very late. You don't know. "I'm sorry things continue to be so difficult for you, but I was very heartened to hear are determined to keep going no matter what." Oh, right. So what you mean is you're very heartened to hear that I'm determined to keep going. And yes, I am. I've said way back into the very first year that I will be here on a Sunday. And I will continue to do that as best as possible. And only my heart attack stopped that from happening. To make a cheesy film reference, you clearly have a true grit. Oh, good God, yeah, that is a bad film reference. Anyhow, you managed to... Oh, I suppose you're saying, I hope you managed to get your Kindle sorted out. I agree that it's a bit of a sticky of Amazon to make perfectly functional hardware obsolete. To be honest, I prefer my older Kindle to the one I have now because I liked having actual buttons to turn the page, on the side, the page turning. I have a question request, if that's okay, please. I've been getting into the Atari 2600 lately, and I was wondering if you can recommend any hidden games on that system. Hidden gems, I take it you're talking about. River Raid is my favourite game so far, and I've also enjoyed Yar's Revenge and Missile Command, but I think they're still fairly well known. Take care, matey, and all the best to your mum. I must admit, the Atari 2600 is one that I go on still, but less and less. It's harder to go back to some of those early simplistic games that were there. You mentioned Yar's Revenge and River Raid. They are my favourites as well. Hero being another. Ones that pushed the hardware envelope for the Atari 2600. And I played Adventure in the early days. It is a bit difficult. I know that there is a game that I did a review of called Hall of the Mountain King, or it's just called Mountain King, which I really, really love, and that's an obscure one. Other ones are less likely to be not well known, like Pitfall. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed my time with Space Invaders and all of that, and of course there was The Empire Strikes Back, which I really loved because Jeff Minter did a Attack of the Mutant Camels with that game. But oh god, let me think. I played Spider-Man, but I think that's well known. Down the rabbit hole you'll probably see has got a lot of Atari 2600s, and maybe I should mention Robert's Retro Gaming here because he does a lot of Atari 2600 work. But yeah, it's harder for me to think of because it really is a system that I play every now and again, but nowhere near like I used to. They were some fantastic games on there. Some great arcade conversions as well. But that Mountain King rings a bell. So I'll end it there with that one. Thank you very much. That was absolutely brilliant. LFC answered you as well in regards to how YouTube is acting in regards to telling you that there are videos out there for you to watch. Try and get into the habit of maybe listening and seeing that there are times that videos will become unannounced and you can go back and watch those. So recommend that you do that. And I'm just going to take another break and just check on my mum. It'll be seconds. And the next commenter is Colin Jones, aka Ponder, a very good friend of mine who's had a great weekend arcade club in Leeds. He travelled all the way from Wales to see some friends. Absolutely marvellous. I wish I could do that. Maybe in the future. But he's put, the USA has absolutely no say on UK or any other non-US sovereign territory, no matter what the orange one says or thinks. I think we know what we're talking about when we say the orange one. And yes, I agree. The CDS, which is the cat distribution system, would disagree about that cat not being yours. Yeah, he came in, didn't he, last week? Little sod. I think he's out in the back garden at the moment. What a bloody situation with the delivery and collection of your mum's assistant stuff. Utterly farcical. Yeah, on the most part, you've got to turn around and say it's free and all of that. But yeah, it really was an absolute mess, wasn't it? In that last blog. Didn't get terrifically better this week either. Lots of drama with your mum and quite a relief both with your sister's operation and the improvement with your mum during her short stay in hospital. Even more drama on discharge, though settled eventually, but I wonder how long that will last. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously in my mind, Colin. It's, you know, we've still got that appointment that I mentioned earlier on. Sending my regards to your mum as always. Thank you, and I will pass that on. I had a feeling you might need more time off work. Not heard your response to last week's comment at the time of typing, so may come back to this. How you're managing, I have no idea, and you have my utmost admiration. Yeah, it's troublesome. Some things could be so much better, Colin. Some things are out of my hands. That's the difficulty, and you just have to find that will to just continue, and I just do my best. I never pat myself on the back for it. I just do what I can. You then put, wow, things seem to have taken a turn for the better with your sister. That's fantastic. And yes, I have to turn around and say we know what pushes our buttons, I think. Maybe a reduction in my medicine for gabapentin has helped, because it does affect your brain a little. I've had to increase it again just slightly with my back, but I haven't noticed any behavioural changes. I will say with that, it's like I say, we have a common goal, and that's what you concentrate on, and that's what we do. And of course, I've turned around and said to my sister, even though we've said some harsh words to each other, you're still my sister. I would probably bend over backwards for her. I don't know whether she would. That's all in the future. We will see. If I'm still doing this blog, then you'll see for yourselves. I won't keep certain stuff that really has affected me health-wise to myself, but I don't think I'll ever have to do that. So that's how positive I am about things, and how positive I am with my sister. My sister is blood. My sister I love very, very much. And I say that publicly. All of my family that are blood, I do. Ones around them, less so. But even so, you can't have hostility. It will affect you all your life. You just have to sort of like let things go. Some things are difficult to. And that's all I can say about that. I think we all have that in our lives. You know, there's nothing I'm saying here that's not being thought of. Do you know what I mean? My smart speaker is a Google Nest Mini. I mostly used it as a timer, but it pissed me off so much by piping up when not invited. I took it down. I can manage better without digital assistance, at least while I'm active. Yeah, my one's in the background. I haven't turned it off, but the one that is definitely needed is the one that's in my mum's room, because it plays her music list. And she can go to sleep listening to Roy Orbison and Elvis and all those 60s songs that she remembers. And I think it's good for brain power. That something is she can listen to while she sleeps. It's a bit like what people say about hearing commonality when you're in a coma. So I do that. Your opinion always matters even when you're not around much. That's really nice comment to say. I've never really thought my opinion matters. But if it does, brilliant. I do remember the Juggler Amiga demo, don't we all? Wasn't that a great demo? This was when I used to play an awful lot of demos. I watch them now on YouTube, don't play them on my own systems. I find I have a lack of space, but they were part of a nostalgic trip for me, and I should have some that I remember. Mainmeister's great. He plays things like the Trap demo and stuff. Don't think he goes back too much to the old early Amiga days where we had wireframe and filled in polygons of the USS Enterprise coming out of Space Dock, which were big demos for me to have on my Amiga. The Trap demo on the C64, and a lot of the demos seen then was SID tunes that I got from bulletin boards back in the day, and they were on magazine covers and so forth. They were just things that phased out a little bit in my life, and I watched or played less of them, but they're very, very important part of nostalgia and very big part of YouTube. And I thank all the people that play those now. And thank you, Colin, for your Sunday SID play that you do on a Sunday. Absolutely marvellous. Well, your opinion, you continue on NFTs basically match mine. And yes, if you do get the time, Cold Fusion is a good channel overall. I no longer have time for grinding in games. Sadly, this includes Elite, and even the thought of Elite Dangerous, which I'd love to have time to play. Yeah, that of Elite Dangerous, my God. I was a day one on that. I played it, couldn't get into it after a week, got into it again when Maymeister's friend played it, and got into it again for about a good month, but I then started to look at special joysticks, Horta joysticks, I think they're called, and they were very expensive, but tried to continue to play this with mouse and keyboard and found it quite challenging, and I still couldn't master the keyboard system on it, and even when they added gamepad type support to it, I had difficulty. And then of course they expanded to being able to land on planets, and I played a little bit then, and then haven't played it since, and it's a shame because it's a fantastic game, really is. It's one of those best ones out there to play. It's so beautiful to look at. I'm going to apologize here for missing comments and follow-up comments on my videos. YouTube notifications suck big time. Yeah, there was one where we had a little chat this week because I mentioned about a story that I'll bring up in a moment later on. I asked a couple of questions. You answered those beautifully. And one was on the day you did the blog, your own vlog, and you thought I was talking about one of the questions from last week where you said you combined the two. Don't worry, it's there for another time. You'll hear the story in a moment. It's not a biggie, so don't worry. I just wanted to know your input on it. You don't have to apologise for anything, by the way. Your stuff's brilliant. I do have some footage from Leeds, about 1 minute or so, but I need time to edit it. Editing 1 minute of footage. It shouldn't take you too long, I would have thought. But I do know time. Wow, doesn't time go quickly? Wow. Don't worry about what we like. It's your channel, so put up what you like. Yeah, it's not about that. It's about what I was trying to get at was the lack of confidence I have with certain people that don't like me making it perfectly clear they don't want that stuff. And it really does when you this is where I have to turn around and say I don't think certain YouTubers understand that when you don't have a lot of subscribers that you shouldn't worry about things. Of course you worry. Your channel only survives by watches, comments, thumbs up. You need to get above 500 before you can even have a button on YouTube that they've introduced called hyped. I am below the 500 limit. I don't care about that, but it does mean that certain people can have their say on what I do because they destroy the YouTube logarithm and I'd never get out of it. So thumbs up to those types of people that want to do that. But there are ways to combat it. And of course, I've been talking with YouTube and they've told me some tools and things that I can use. And any of that sort of thing going on, I can sort of like log reports, and that is going on. So we'll see. They probably don't even get this far, so it's a waste of breath, really, talking about it. Fingers crossed for a good week, for a change. You deserve it. Better, I would say. But I'm looking forward to going to work, to be quite honest. It's detrimental to pay. It's detrimental to my mental well-being. And I need normality. So, yeah. My question. You've seen my latest vlog, so you also have seen my latest toy. The cheap Steam Deck clone. Oh, okay. What do you think of this sort of device, and do you plan to get something similar in the future? I've got to think now. Now, your vlog had a Commodore 64 box that you 3D printed, and a talk about your arcade box. And copious amounts of ranting at stuff that you can't change, like AI and stuff. And of course your brilliant comment in regards to where you stand with AI, which I totally agree with. And I love that media streaming box that you bought from AI Express. I think it was AliExpress, which I'd love to have, by the way. Looked amazing, especially at that price, but I can't really afford that at the moment, even if I wanted one. But I could just imagine me pressing the buttons like you do with your sound effects and stuff. But I don't remember the cheap Steam Deck, but there are lots of handheld type devices, and I've bought many over the years. I had a Game Park 32, which I think I've still got in here somewhere. I don't think I'll be able to pull it out quickly though. But no, I'm not going to be able to, I don't think. And of course I've got my old DS, the old style one. No, I'm not going to be able to find that. Sorry about that, guys. And after the Game Park, I bought a Pandora. Pandora was one of probably my regret that I talk about, because the Pandora was after the GP32 and was a handheld with 2 SD slots in it, a pen, touchscreen, 2 joy pads, a full a keyboard, although a small one, dual screen, and it was built really for the Amiga. So you had a portable Amiga, so you could have a dual disk drive on it, because you could call those drive letters A and B, and or 1 and 2, or whatever you want to call them. So you could load Workbench and play things like Defender of the Crown, and that was amazing at the time. And it was an expensive device, and I had to sell it because my car needed a new engine. It was my Astra, and I needed £400 or £500, and I sold it for $550. Didn't get that much more than what I bought it for. I think I bought it for $399, $450. I bought an extra battery for it, and a case, etc. Alan still got his. I told him, don't get rid of that, mate. Whew. No. I don't know whether that's relevant now. Maybe it is worth getting rid of now. But I would, if I had mine, I'd still be on it. I'd still be using it. So that maybe shows you a little bit of what my regret is. But the Steam Deck is a lovely machine that I'd love to have. Maymeister came here a couple of years back and showed me it, and I fell in love with it. But I don't have the money. It's I know that when I'm buying devices, I'd buy the middle or the best one. The middle one when I'm cash strapped, and the top one if I've got copious amounts of money. And the top one of the Steam Deck has an SSD drive in it, if I remember, and the screen is, I think, OLED. But it was a beautiful device, and a great emulation device, which is what I think you're talking about as this cheap Steam Deck. And I've only got these little knockoff Pow Kiddie type handhelds now, like the RG35, is it? 34, 35? And a few other little handhelds. I think I've got one in one of my drawers here. Is it in here? Yeah, there's one. No. Hardly used. But with my mum being ill and me needing to spend more time in there, wouldn't it be great for me to have a Steam Deck? I definitely would like to save up for one. But in regards to your Steam Deck clone, I'm going to have to watch your vlog again and see what I missed, because I don't remember it. What do you think of the sort of device, and do you plan on getting something similar? Well, I think I've just answered the last part. What do you think of this sort of device? Like I said, I used to think that the less I was traveling, the less I needed them. I think they're great for people that are traveling, on trains, on all that sort of stuff, from moving from room to room, when you've got little bits of time. that you need to get rid of. So I'm all for them. Yeah, brilliant. So I think that answers that question. They're getting very clever. The technology is getting faster, and they're becoming, I think, a little bit more reliable. There was a time where I thought cheap knockoffs didn't last very long. I think they're lasting a bit longer now. I might be wrong with that, but yeah, great stuff. And I'm going to risk moving on and saying salute and go to this last one because it is the last comment. And it says here, and it's from Carl Todd. Hi Dale, sorry for the lack of comment this week. Major crunch time to finish a new product release, so lack of sleep and also a hospital appointment caused me to miss posting a question. Sorry to hear that you had a bad week, but it seems like there was a silver lining at the end with your mum's health getting better. Yeah, with those antibiotics, they were. I'd love to see you unbox the new cards. I would say, don't let the haters dictate what you do. That is how they win. Who cares if they don't like to see you unboxing cards? They are free to leave at any time. They are just the minority with big mouths. Be true to yourself and do what you like on your channel. And that's a good thing to say. Thank you so much. And like I say, I don't have hatred to these people. They don't want me to succeed. They are restricting things of a type. Other people can combat that by liking my videos more, commenting more, get the algorithm up. But haters are haters. And as my confidence grows and as I become more who gives a shit, bollocks to them, which will cheer. I said that all for Ian's benefit, by the way. He loves me saying all of those things, by the way. I will go to them. But it's such a shame, isn't it? A person sent me something as a gift, liked a video that I did, wanted me to have something as a gift, obviously would like it that I opened them up, and certain people restricted me from doing that because I want more people to see this, and less people do if they manipulate the algorithm, which I can combat now with YouTube's support because I've spoken to them and they've come back to me. And, some people can hide. Not forever. That's what I'm trying to say there. But to all those people, try to give me a break. I don't do anything to you. I'm not subscribed to channels that I no longer talk or deal with or watch anymore. I don't hurt them. I don't think it's them anyway. I think it could be something I'm saying, but if they don't comment, I can't tell. It's that sort of thing. And the one thing, though, I will lay this in stone. If it's the blog they don't like, this diary, it's not going anywhere. It will be done. Okay, because it is a diary. It is my way of venting. Okay, if it's the other things, hate those, dislike those, I suppose, but leave a comment that tells me what you don't like about them. If you're doing it just to upset me, I've got bigger worries. My mum, my sister's health, my family who are very important in my life, including the people around my family. Those are the important things. My friends on YouTube are very important. My stuff, less so. Do you see what I mean? So you are a small irritation, but I just don't try to dwell on it, and I only mention it when people mention it to me in comments. If you don't want to incite them, say, probably don't mention it in the comments. You can always private chat me. I'm in Discord. I'm in a few Discords. There are people that know me on my other social media platforms, which I don't talk about too much, but people know what they are. You can talk to me there. So you don't have to make it public. But there you go. But the one thing is that I always said from the very beginning that this was an experiment to show how my mood was in a week. And it's a legacy to leave behind to say what was going on in my life. If I die of a heart attack, people will know what the pressures I was under. That sort of thing. Do you get it? So if other people want to put pressure on me, make me have another heart attack, they know how to do it. And it'll be on them and their conscience. So with that, I'm just going to take a pause because it must be getting very close to the carers turning up and I'm a bit concerned about it. And I need to check on my mum, as I've been doing about every 20 minutes if you've been watching or noticing. So back shortly. And I'm back. And yeah, a lot's happened since I was talking with Carl Todd, and that is the carers have been. I've cooked my mum's dinner, I've fed it to her, I've given her a pudding, I've washed up, I've given her a medicine, and I'm back. My God. So quite a lot. And I finished with the comments, and I just want to say thank you very much for all of that. And we get on to the last bit, which is watched on YouTube. That's all the stuff that sort of like is happened during the week. So watched on YouTube is a section where there are 4 that I always watch, which is This Week in Retro, Tech Moan, Gadget Show, and Chronologically Gaming. So with This Week in Retro, it was the 3 sections were I Do Like to Be Beside the Seaside, It's Not That Terrible, and Null Modem Not Required. They were all pretty good sections, really, although I Do Like to Be Beside the Seaside's been discussed quite recently with my friends. So we've all been reminiscing about arcades of the past, the mechanical ones, all of that sort of stuff. But it's really good because not everybody watches the same channels. So there's all that sort of stuff. So that was good. Tech Moan brought out a video a bit late. I put a question mark next to it to show that he might be having a week off. But he actually brought out a video a little bit later where he was showing off his hi-fi kit. Now, it wasn't a show-off. What it is that he's got a lot of hi-fi equipment. He doesn't normally display it. He spent 3 days wiring up his room for all these bits of equipment, which required quite a few amounts of power plugs, which you manipulate with your phone, because some of them require step down and step up transformers, which you don't want to have on all the time. So it's great to have an app where you can turn off power plug sockets. And it's great that the app can name what those sockets are, so you don't turn off the wrong one or turn on the wrong one. So that was good. Learned an awful lot about that. And yeah, had a great fun. It's great to see people's sound equipment. And he had CDs, spectral analyzers, amps, all sorts, 8-track, 4-track, record players. Yeah, brilliant. Definitely a good 40 minutes of my time looking at that video. The Gadget Show had a couple of videos this week. They were Robot Hype, Battery Myths, Gaming Disasters. So that was one. And 20 Greatest Gadgets Ever, Did We Get It Wrong? So they were talking about previous gadget shows, because it used to be on Channel 5. And it's moved to YouTube, and they were talking about in the past all of the gadgets and whether they are still the greatest gadgets ever. So that was quite good. I like that. And Chronologically Gaming is still in 1982, but he said he would be for a few weeks because of the mop-up procedure. So it's December 1982, and he'll soon be in 1983. And he showed off Star Gunner on the Atari 2600, which came out at some point in December, but no exact date known. I must admit, when I was researching, trying to do videos of games in certain years, finding out the exact date, the week, the date that it came out, very difficult. The Billboard charts and everything are quite difficult because there were no Billboard charts. They're more magazines that would have given you an indication, that sort of thing. So that's good. So what else did I watch beyond the 4 that I watch every week? Well, there was Gen X Collect. He's a trading card collector. He brought out an interesting video, most insane Spider-Man cards ever. And of course, you caught me with Spider-Man, didn't you? So I had a little look, and it is a card collection I've got. And I must admit, he actually opened up a card which is quite hard to get hold of. It's not hard to get hold of on the second-hand market, but if you open a box, no guarantee you'd get it. It's like 1 per case, something like that. And of course, I only buy singular boxes if I ever buy any at all. And I haven't bought any in a long time. So that was really nice to see other people that can do that. So that was really nice. Then I watched Modern Vintage Gamer. This was a question that I raised with Colin. It was the announcement of the Super Z-SNES emulator. Now, a lot of people that are into emulation like I was since MAME came out, was that there were all these other emulators to play on your PC, and one of them was Z-SNES, which was a Super Nintendo. And I tell you what, it was probably the fastest, speediest, most stable of the emulators that I ever used. And it's now called Super Z-SNES because the same team that wrote it have come back after, well, it must be 10, 15 years. And they've gone back to the emulator, looked at it, changed some of the priorities on it. So in other words, instead of it using the CPU, it now uses the GPU, the graphics processor unit, and added some other quality of life parts to it and started to release it to the public. So that was great. So I asked Colin a question on that, and I'm sure he'll answer it if he ever sees it, and I'm sure he'll look. So that's great. Then there was a channel called Black Hood Press. This is an oldish video, but it came up in my alerts. It was the Planet of the Apes movie turned into black and white, re-edited with a voiceover by Rod Serling, and turned into a Twilight Zone episode. So it's exactly, or should I, it's not exactly, but it's very close to a 30-minute Twilight Zone episode. So, about 20, 25 minutes is with, if you took the adverts out, it'd be 25 minutes, 22 minutes, somewhere around there. And they've edited it and put a voiceover by Rod Serling over the top, as if Planet of the Apes was not a film, but was a TV episode of the Twilight Zone. Really enjoyed that. That was brilliant. That was Black Hood Press, by the way. Then the Film is Fabulous brought out a video where they announced that a lost Morecambe and Wise episode has been found, retouched up, and will be released in the next month. And that's brilliant. I think it's the same collection that the Doctor Who 2 missing episodes came from. It is from a technician. I think it's from the same collection. So that's great. Something different. I love Morecambe and Wise anyway, so I'll be looking out for that. And then Drew Garacki came out with a video, and this was a sad part of my week. Jerry Conway died this week in his 70s. He's a writer for Marvel Comics, and he followed Stan Lee when Spider-Man was given to another writer, a new editing team at the beginning of the 70s, so about 1971. And one of the things that Jerry Conway did, which he was sort of like hounded over, very early hatred, if you see what I mean, was when he killed off Gwen Stacy. So you can imagine he took over the reins in the early 101, 110 section of Spider-Man. And by issue 121, issue 122, he brought out the story, which is well known now, of the death of Gwen Stacy, followed by the death of the Green Goblin. And he wrote it in his teens. Jerry Conway was in his teens when he took over this prolific book that I'm a big fan of. And the fans went mad. How dare you kill off a character like Gwen Stacy, they were saying. Who came up with that idea? And then nobody would own up, apart from Jerry Conway. He said, it was me. Where, if you look at the history, that's been sort of like retconned. Where it was a combination of people. I believe John Romita turned around and said it was a great idea that a character was killed off. Didn't think that Aunt May was a strong enough character to kill off because that's what the world would be expecting, being an old biddy aunt who was nearly on a deathbed nearly every episode. And it had to be something with meaning, something with lasting impact. And John Romita never turned round ever and said he suggested Gwen Stacy. Stan Lee, on the other hand, said it wasn't him. He didn't like to upset fans. So he sort of like, I don't think he specifically stated it wasn't me, but he sort of like pushed the question aside one bit and said, I think he said it was a great story, but not necessarily did it come from him. Where actually all three of them had a part to play. So, but Jerry Conway was the one who took the flack for years and years and years, and he nearly gave up writing Marvel Comics altogether. He carried on his run up to issue 149, 150 from memory, and then went on to do other stuff and came back to the Spider-Man title, in the 200s. He did do a run on Spectacular Spider-Man, which was another monthly title, and came back to that. So he did 2 runs on that, I believe. And it just brought back so many memories of Jerry Conway, who I think really pushed Spider-Man well into the 200s by his story writing. They can be looked at as a bit unrealistic, nuclear explosions going off and stuff like this, and I can agree with that. And some of the villains he created were not well remembered. Things like the kangaroo and that sort of stuff. Although he did create Hammerhead, which has a lasting presence even now. So it upset me very much that a boyhood writer who did some of the writing that I remember the most died last week. And so it was nice to see that video go out there with some memories from that guy that brought it out as well. Because I've got my own, and I could have done a video, but of course I've been looking after my mum, so that never happened. So we now move on to film, TV, soundtrack, YouTube. And this is more film related. And we start off with Ian Hill, The Ramblings, my friend, who I do a live on Wednesday with. As I said, please go and have a little look at his channel. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. We had a great time. What's he done this week? He did my top 5 Westerns, year 2000 to 2006. He's probably brought out a 2007 by now, the cheeky devil. Always one that I'm going to miss. I'll have to look out when I finish this. And because he's in the 2000s, it won't be long before he's got to move on to another topic after Westerns. Intrigued to know what that'll be. Then you've got Doctor Who review, The Savages. That we're still in the William Hartnell era. I think it's towards the end now on what he's going to do. And then he'll be on to the Patrick Troughton ones. So that was always good. I always like a good Doctor Who review. X-Files review season 6 episode 9. So he's approaching midway point. They go into the 20s. So he's not far from that now. Another month and he'll be halfway through, I should think. Then he did his What Have I Watched section. He's been doing that now for quite some weeks. He's now on to episode 16. So, of course, that's 16 weeks. So that's brilliant. He did a review of the SFX magazine. It's the only magazine I think he gets now. And there can't be many magazines that are published anymore. So SFX magazine, May 2026. So we did a review of that. And, of course, he did a live with me, which we've already talked about, and we had a great time. No issues, had a great time, and yeah, so much there for you to enjoy. I recommend anybody that's never experienced an Ian Hill video to go and have a look. And if you've not subscribed already, go and subscribe. Absolutely marvellous. We move on to Movie Collector, who I've talked about several times. He's becoming a norm now. It might be one that I'll have as a stay point. He's that ex-projectionist. He went round a friend's house and looked at his home cinema. So it was home cinema, Trevor Eris double bill movies. So he looked at a couple of films, listened to his sound system, his projection system. Marvellous. That was great. Loved that. Just Joshings continued his run of, after his coming back to YouTube, he did a live movie tier list. I believe it's a modern movie tier list. And I always like a good tier list. Don't you? Don't we all? So that was quite nice. Always nice to watch and you go, ooh, wouldn't put that there. Oh, no. Like that. I'm forever tutting at the screen of those. Brilliant. Mondo Chelovic Movies brought out another video. Nice to see that there's been a video now for the last couple of weeks of his stuff instead of just going to Patreons. He did a 88 films 4Ks special edition. So he's picked up 4Ks from the distributor 88 Films in the last few weeks and wanted to show off the 4Ks. Commode on Film podcast. There wasn't one this week, but there was a Commode and Mayo's take because there was some film reviews. There was Surviving Earth, Hockham, The Mummy, and Devil Wears Prada 2, which have all been released recently. And he did his box office top 10, which is always great to see which films are in favour and which ones aren't. And David Mansell, a good friend, person who I haven't actually met, but he's met my friend Jim Jam a number of times. And we've talked via comments over, a year or so now. He did a couple of videos. He did an updated Arrow collection, which was his Arrow 4K DVDs and Blu-rays, which was very interesting. And my graphic novel collection review, should I say. And I answered the graphic novel one because he also talked about Spider-Man. So, of course, I had to mention Craven's Last Hunt and a little bit about Jerry Conway's run on the death of Gwen Stacy, because they were mentioned. And that was really nice to have David Mansell talk about a passion of mine, which is comics. And the last thing is gaming and tech YouTube, after I've just taken a bit of a drink. And these are my friends that have got their own channels. Part of my Discord, part of my friend Mainmeister's Discord, and just people I talk to in general, which are all supporters, and I'm a supporter of them. You've got Down the Rabbit Hole. Now, I don't know if I can pronounce this, because I think he had difficulty as well. So he opened up a bottle of wine, and the video was called Le Fide de Pape, or Chatouin of de Pep. I don't know if it's Pep, Pop, Pepe, just like he didn't. And it was quite interesting. It was a bottle that he brought in, which is difficult to do in Canada. The bottle was sort of like a special type of bottle with sort of ground in dirt on the bottle, which is difficult to bring in Canada due to quarantine things. Just like if you've ever seen an Australian customs video on TV, where they show people bringing things in on holiday, and they've got strict food guides and bringing things into the country. So that was interesting to know that Canada's like that. And if you wanted to know, my phone is on in case the carers knock or I don't hear, or there's a phone that I need to answer in due to my mother and her health. So was that video. Then there was how I made the Napoleon hat. That's because he did the video with a special Napoleon costume and he wanted to show off how he made the hat. And then he did so this is trying out the game Flat Out on an Xbox, as it's coming to PSVR 2. So there's a game called Flat Out. It's very much a racing game, but with this destruction type elements. He was playing it with his steering wheel, his Mad Catz steering wheel, and he wanted to know what the game was like for when the VR edition comes out later this year, which is quite exciting to him because he does have racing games in VR, but he doesn't have one that's sort of like more about crashing into other cars than they are about the racing. So that was quite good. Then we move on, salute my friend, and we move on to Robert's Retro Gaming, another person from Canada. And oh my God, just listen to this list. This is why you need to subscribe to these people. There is Dwarf Fortress Classic Episode 36, Minecraft Play Episode 191, Pico Out Gameplay Joust 2600, ZX Spectrum G Play gameplay, should I say, called Sunblot. That's one that I've seen Steve play before. That was great, where you light up the light bulbs. C64 gameplay of The Bard's Tale, which rings a bell with me, although I played the Amiga one more, but I did sell my Commodore 64 for a while. And Atari 8-bit gameplay with these titles: Universal Hero, UFA Hunt 2, Cambodia, and Caveman. And I believe he's brought out another Pico 8, but I haven't got round to watching it yet. So that's going to be good to watch. And again, if you haven't guessed, I need to check on my mother. So I'll be back in just a moment. Won't be long. So mother's okay, and we finished with Down the Rabbit Hole just now. Definitely check out his channel. And we move on to Robert's Retro Gaming. I think I didn't get round to him. So apologies if there's a bit of an overlap. But salute to Down the Rabbit Hole. And Robert, what did he do? Wow, he's Canadian royalty. I mean, my God, he does so much. So here we go. We got Dwarf Fortress Classic Episode 36, Minecraft Play Episode 191, Pico 8 Gameplay Joust 2600, ZX Spectrum Gameplay Sun Bucket, C64 Gameplay The Bard's Tale, Atari 8-bit Universal Hero, UFO Hunt 2, Cambodia, and Caveman. Wow. Such an awful lot there, Robert, and it's great because you give me something to watch every day. Absolutely marvellous. Some of the stuff is so comprehensive, like the Dwarf Fortress Classic, but I try to watch it and understand it as best as possible, but it must be absolutely fantastic for those people that are into that game. And of course, I played it back in the day, never really understood the complexity of it because I never really put enough time into it. Something I should probably reverse when I do have the time back to me. So always good to get a little bit of an insight for when that happens. Salute, my friend, thank you so much. And we move on to Steve Still Plays Games, my friend Steve. And it's so good to see him back. He did Dark Souls episode 17 to 19, a Commodore 64 gameplay video of Hideous Bill and the Gigants, something like that, done by Steve Lee. And I remember very much buying that game around about the time that I bought Falcon Patrol 2. I was such a fan of Falcon Patrol and its fantastic SID sound effect for the jump jet that was in it, that I instantly bought Falcon Patrol 2. And I saw on the shelf this other game which was done by Steve Lee called Hideous Bill. I remember playing it, but not playing it anywhere near as much as Falcon Patrol, so that was great. And then yesterday, quite late, so I added it to my blog, he did a game called Seamus comparison. It was very interesting to watch this because I've played various versions of Seamus and loved it. It's by Synapse Software, if you're not in the know. And I played that on the VIC-20 and loved it, knowing full well that this was out on other systems and that the other systems had far more rooms than the VIC-20 could ever have because of its memory limitations. But I always thought that the VIC-20 version was better than some of the other versions. I think it's probably because it punched above its own weight, but also because of nostalgia reasons. It was the first one I played. But Mainmeister's got an interesting tale about Seamus that he sometimes talks about. I've heard him explain that story at least 3 times. So go and have a look at his channel, Mainmeister. It's a great channel. And of course, since I've had the Mister, I've played the Apple version, but I don't think I've played the TRS-80. And of course, Steve was explaining that he has difficulty sometimes setting those up. And I must admit, each computer system has got its own little quirks. They are hard. So it's no surprise to me that it was very difficult for him to do a comparison. But he did do the Commodore 64. He has played the Atari version, and he did play the VIC-20 version. So it was an instant watch for me. And of course, go and have a look because that's one of the best videos I saw this week, really. I really enjoyed my time watching that. So thanks very much and salute, Steve. Absolutely marvellous. You still need to die more in your games, by the way. But anyway, that's because I like seeing him die and suffer. But then we move on to, and salute to him, and we move on to 20th Century Gaming. 20th Century Gaming did a number of videos this week. He did a ZX Spectrum Live. He's very Spectrum heavy in the summer. ZX Spectrum Live, Bruce Lee Spectrum Memories, and ZX Spectrum Roller Coaster, The Important Screen. So he wanted to show off in that game Roller Coaster, which is the important screen, the screen that you don't want to cock up as best as possible. And then he did a live stream last night where he showed off a game I think called Draconian, if I remember right, if I got the name of that right, and some others. So that was great. I had a nice time relaxing last night before I went to bed watching that. Moving on to salute, my friend, and moving on to my other friend, Wee Bob. He's continuing his Zomboid section where there's a game called Project Zomboid, and he's up to episode 8. It's very unique. He's done a narrative over the top of playing the game, and that's marvellous. I'm really enjoying my time watch that. He's mostly a graphic artist, but he does like to do things on films, games, memories, nostalgia, and obviously his graphical art techniques are second to none. He got me into a program called Rebella, and I must go back to that because I've got my very high-end laptop here, which is touchscreen, and do some drawing. I'm not very good though. Wee Bob is. He's just a graphic artist entrepreneur. Moving on, we get to Colin Jones, aka Ponder. Salute, Wee Bob, by the way. He did his vlog, which I talked about earlier. He's up to episode 103. I need to go back to it because I must have missed a bit about the Steam Deck. But it was a good 20 or so minute vlog, and nice to get caught up with what's going on in the last 3 weeks. That was brilliant. LFC Gamer, who I mentioned earlier, did do a vlog dated the 30th of the 4th, 2026. So end of month. That was brilliant. Nice getting a catch up with him. He talked about football, some pickups that he was talking about for his next vlog. It was an interesting one, and definitely a great blog to watch. Really enjoyed myself. And finally, Mainmeister, who got me into this in the first place. He did Friday Waffle. He did a Thursday ZX Spectrum Game Goodness. And he did a Sunday Live last Sunday of games that he played at Arcade Club, which he went to that weekend. He'd travelled back from Leeds all the way up to his home. And after a good 5-6 hour drive, he still did a live and played games again that he played at the Arcade Club. So that was marvellous. And that's the end of the written part of the blog. Absolutely marvellous. Really enjoyed reading that out to you all. And we move on to the final part. And we move to the overhead cam for that. Get things out of the way. Because there are some things that turned up this week. So this turned up this week. You can see it was from HMV. It's the film Soldier from Arrow. I got this not because it's the most brilliant of movies, because it's definitely not. Most people put it in the bad film block, and I can understand that. It's loosely got a Blade Runner connection because of the off-world colonies mentioned in Blade Runner, but it is incredibly loose. It's not at all advertised as being anything associated with Blade Runner, and so it shouldn't. It's just one of those ones that I watched and enjoyed as a bubblegum sort of popcorn type movie. There's the back of it. There's quite a few extras. It's a 4K edition of it. It was fairly cheap. So I'm looking forward to going back with this. This is the unopened next film that I got in the same package this week. It was Inner Space. This is the sealed one. The unsealed one is in the player at the moment. That's because it was sent twice to me, but I've been charged twice, so this one's going back. It's from HMV. Inner Space, a great Joe Dante film that's not talked about too much. I really enjoyed my time with Inner Space when it first came out. It was a interesting remake of Fantastic Voyage, where miniaturization occurs and they inject someone into a body to repair its body from the inside using a submarine type vessel. This is the same sort of thing, only it's mixed in with humour and sort of a spy 007 sort of edge to it, with a hypochondriac played by Martin Short. Lots of extras in this. So far what I've watched of it, I've enjoyed the picture quality. The sound is great. And it took me back to my time with watching that film. Really enjoyable, and I'm so glad I've got that one. It's a bigger box edition of it. And finally, we've got a very cheap copy of The Man Who Haunted Himself, which has been released on the Cult Classic label in 4K for the first time. I've had this on DVD, I've had it on VHS, I've had it on Blu-ray, now I've got it on 4K. It is Roger Moore's, what he quotes as being one of his favourite films to record. He had a really good time doing it. It's an interesting story. It's an expansion of an Alfred Hitchcock episode, The Curious Case of Mr. Pelham. I've always loved the musical score of this, the intrigueness of it all. What would you do if you had a doppelganger, is really what it is. And I'm really looking forward to watching that on 4K. And so that's a highlight for me. And that's the end of the blog. So I've had a great time doing this. It's been a challenging week, but a much better week than the week before. My God, my mum going into hospital last week was really quite a pressure on the whole of my family. It was interesting and fun to catch up with my niece this week. Meeting, people is always great. And for the most part, that was a highlight. I'll say that. And I'm looking forward to my sister coming back. I wish to get better, faster. I want to see a doctor quicker than I am, so I will be chasing that up to see if I can get to see a doctor quicker so that I can go to back to work quicker. And that's the end, really. I now go to my caring duties. It's been a bit of a breakup sort of video, this one. Full of highlights. Very few negatives, and what the negatives that are there, barely worth mentioning, and ones that I know some things were said in haste, and I know that things can only improve. So with that, I'm going to say salute. Hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next week, because this diary is very important, and I'll see you on the flip side. Salute. Bye-bye.